All right, if you all rise and say the pledge. Pledge to the flag of the United States of America, one. I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 21st meeting. We will start with recognition of delegations. Anyone wishing to be recognized to speak on any agenda item or to be heard as part of the section of the agenda dealing with delegations or citizen comments are to identify themselves by name and the point on the agenda where they wish to be recognized. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on. The recommended actions. Take A, B, and C together.
Sure. We have provided the board with the minutes from the July 7th meeting, vouchers enclosed of payroll checks and electronic transfers, and our financial statement for June is also enclosed.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 7th, 2025 meeting as prepared or as corrected? A motion to authorize payment of payroll checks 401-362 through 401-983, voucher checks 146-272 through 146-313, and electronic transfers ET3256 through ET3260 as recommended. Voided payroll and voucher checks not listed on the voucher listing in the above sequences are not approved for payment by this motion. Also, a motion to accept the financial statement for June 30th, 2025 and to file it for audit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Ms. Butler, seconded by Mr. Isaac. Any discussion?
Yes, is this a correct date?
It was changed on there.
Changed on yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you print yours before you came?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yep.
We
It
changed
changed
it on the
today.
agenda today.
Okay.
We apologize.
The Bowen Operations Fund, its percent's at 27.66.
Yeah, a lot of the roofing projects have not hit yet.
Invoices haven't
Yeah.
come through from the summer. I
Correct.
suspect that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Only if he's on Facebook.
And they'll still be well under the you know,
50, yeah.
yeah. But
Okay. Thank you.
We had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Moving on to new business, personnel.
We have a few resignations. Jessica Adler, special ed teacher at the high school, and also 1/4 of a stipend for unified track. Crystal Grennert, special ed TA at the high school. Karina, I'm going to struggle with this one. I didn't practice. Majam Como. She was assistant coach for girls wrestling for 1/4 of a stipend. Bernard Reedford is resigning as science department chair, and Ethan Wigand, assistant coach for girls wrestling, also 1/4 of a stipend at the high school.
Do we have a motion to accept the resignation effective immediately unless otherwise indicated from the list above?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Oates, seconded by Mr. Isaac. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Moving on to employment recommendations.
We have a few recommendations. Dustin Boyer, strength coach, half stipend for the high school. Caitlin Lamar, special education TA. Bailey Phelps, PE teacher at West and head coach for volleyball. And Ashley Wilson for guard instructor, half stipend at the high school.
Do we have a motion to confirm the employment from the list above?
So moved.
Second. Motion was made by Mr. Isaac, seconded by Ms. Butler. Any discussion?
So was that the only opening on the guard instructor? I know it's a half stipend. Are we still looking?
I believe the other half is filled.
Okay.
I think we took it. Did we take something earlier in the spring?
I think so.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Moving on to employment termination.
We are recommending the termination of Ashley Dowsman from Food Services bookkeeper effective 7/16/25.
We have a motion to terminate the employment of Ashley Dossman effective July 16th of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Oates, seconded by Ms. Butler. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Moving on to informational and proposals. Lois.
This department chair, he's, what is he?
About
Uh,
half the time.
He's half-time, so he's not here all of the time, so he is going to resign from that position, and we will likely have someone fill that position who is a full-time teacher here.
Mhm. It's a personnel issue, and her job is not phased out, but we are looking at how we will structure that in the future. We temporarily have someone filling in who is knowledgeable of the position. Mhm.
Are you on the budget? Uh, which line item did you say? 1850.
Bo, do you want the rest of this packet back?
Um, it wasn't an unusual number.
I don't think we anticipate anything.
Yeah, I don't think we're to that point yet. I'm not sure exactly. Can I see where you're looking at on there?
Or do you have the paper she's talking about? You don't have to bring it to me. I just want to make sure you have. Let's see, we talked, Mr. Rican is working on septic tank issues right now, making sure that we have the correct size for that. It's a little bit larger than he thought we were initially going to have. There's also, they're doing some dirt work on the property or where it's located in the neighborhood. And then positioning the septic tank in the right place and the house in the right place. So we haven't broken ground on it, but we're still doing the legwork on just to get it ready to begin.
Yep, we have some big projects with the roof repairs. We're
Thank you.
currently putting in batting cages at the baseball field. We put in a shaded covering out at Farmersville Elementary so that's complete. And then at Mars Elementary, we may there's kind of that loop where parents pick up. We plan on doing some work there as well to make that easier for pickup. August 6th is the first day for students.
And we'll have staff back on the 5th, the morning of the 5th.
Okay. Moving on to superintendent and staff informational items.
Turn it over to Bo. Are you ready for that? Or do you want to
We're
talk about
the self-insurance fund.
first?
Yeah, it's just back to having another good month.
Yep, as I say, there's that ad,
Yes.
that ad, so yeah.
It's always that's the first thing I look for is what that difference is, and
Yes.
it's positive. I'm a happy person.
Okay. And no questions asked by board members tonight. So would you want to take us all the way out?
We have meetings coming up on August 4th, August 18th, and September 2nd. And as we just said, our first day back for staff will be August 5th, and we will have everyone back for some breakfast and just get together. And then our kids will return on August 6th. We're excited to see them back. And Bo is going to go over our budget and give you an overview of operations. You going to do that also? We're not doing that. Okay, he is not doing that part. He is just going to go over the budget.
Yes, just the education fund and rainy day fund tonight. So we'll do operations and debt service next time. Because I don't have that presentation here. So most of you guys have been through this before. Kind of we'll go through it the same way we have in years past. So these are our two timelines. So we're going over that today. Operations debt service, which is our taxable funds the next time. And then as long as everything goes well, we'll bring permission to advertise to the next meeting. So education fund is based on ADM. So based on how many students we have, that's how we get our funding for our education fund. And then rainy day fund, which we'll talk about after that, is strictly based on how much cash we have in the bank account. So more like a savings account. Starting with the education fund, you can see our ADM and enrollment for the past several years. So you can see from 21, 22 to 24, 25, it's down about 100 ADM. So you multiply that by whatever the foundation complexity amount, which is, you can use 7,500 as a decent starting point. So you can do that math and see the difference between if we would have been at that level all the way through to now. Enrollment is a little bit misleading because you might think, well, in 21, 22, we had 2,064 enrolled, and here we have 2,040, but there's a big difference in ADM. Enrollment includes preschool. So just from 23, 24 to 24, 25, we went from, I believe, 48 preschoolers last year to 81 this year. So we saw, which is a good thing, we saw a big increase in our preschool, which is part of our strategic plan going forward is to increase those preschool enrollment numbers and hopefully capture more students early and get those interventions in place to help alleviate maybe some issues along the way and also show parents that how great the school system is from the get-go. So that's why we can't go by the enrollment number when we're looking at funding. We have to go by the ADM. So last year was 1950. And then in the spring was 1910. So that, 3940 student loss from October 1 to February. There's a couple different things that could happen. A lot of it is early graduates is where that ADM, most of that is. It can also be due to expulsions and transfers out. So those are kind of the three main reasons why our ADM goes down from October to February. And this is just a graph that Mr. Evans always included in here, so figured I'd continue that tradition. You can see, just from the turn of the century, kind of where we were at versus where we're at now. Was a pretty steady decline up until about 2019, 2018, and then we saw kind of a leveling off since then. And so we hope to turn that trend the opposite way and make it a smiley face in the future. So our foundation complexity funding. So the most important part. So for 2026, fiscal year 2026, this is our foundation complexity funding per student that we get. So a 2.06% increase. You can see that is bigger than last year, smaller than the few years before that. But this isn't exactly the entire story. The way they came up with that amount, so foundation is the amount that every student receives no matter what. It's just a base amount. It was $6,681 last year, $6,967 this year, so about a 4% increase. Where we see that decrease in the 2.06% is the complexity part of that. So the state decreased the complexity index by 16%. So our index went down 16%, and then the amount that base is on went down about 0.6%. So in total, we lost about 17% of that complexity piece. And what that is every student gets it, but it's based on our total number of students on SNAP, TANF, foster care. So even though those numbers have either stayed the same or went up in recent years, we're actually seeing a decrease in funding in that area. And so that went from last year, we got $781 per student, to this year, we're getting about $649. So a loss of $130 per student. So while we went up a little under $300 in the foundation, we went down 100 plus in the complexity. So all that said, it balances out to about 2.06% increase per student. But unfortunately, that's not the full story either. The 2.06%, if we look at it, if ADM this year was exactly the same as it was last year, that would be about a $300,000 increase to our education fund. The bad thing is that 2.06% includes textbooks now. So they used to have that separated out. Well, this year they rolled that into that 2.06%. And so out of that $300,000 increase, we spent $250,000 on textbooks this year. Now this is our big year. It was reading, which is our largest one. So we'll talk about that later on. We don't anticipate another 250. But as you can see, really in new dollars, that's about 50,000 more in new dollars if our ADM stays the same. So if that doesn't go up or go down, we got about 50,000 in new dollars for fiscal year 26. So just keep that in mind as we go through, because we're not going to budget as if we are staying the same. We're going to play it a little more conservative. As you can see in 2024, we talked about that fall and spring ADM. Those averaged out to about 1,958 students. And then in 2005, it averaged out to about 1,910 students. And so for 2026, we're going to assume 1,880 students. So a loss of about 30. We really think, we hope, we're planning on that there be more students than that. But we don't want any surprises, because I underestimated the ADM last year. So we were kind of right. We try and go lower than what we think, and we were really right at the edge there. So we budget for that, hoping that it's a better number than that. So if it is 1880, what you see is basically a loss of $56,000 from last year. So if it stays the same, it's a $50,000 gain. If we go down to the 1880, it's a $50,000 loss. So this is our estimated revenue that we get. Thanks to United Fidelity Bank for the nice interest on our investments that we have. So that has been really helpful in when we've had this kind of stagnant enrollment to have that money there. But we don't want to plan on that being there forever, because Federal Reserve at any time could start a decreasing those rates. So we feel like with the way our cash balance is right now, we're pretty safe to assume we'll receive about the same revenue in 26 as 25. But we definitely don't want to plan on any more than what we got. So student and adult fees, as you guys probably remember, which kind of goes back to the textbook that you can't charge fees for that. We can't charge really any fees for students except for parking fees, and then as you'll see down there, like if there's damages to textbooks or Chromebooks or things like that. So that 1741 is like pool fees. So people that rent out facilities, pools, things of that nature, lost library books, parking fees, things like that, things that are non-instructional. We can't charge any fees for anything instructional. The kind of jumping down the curricular materials rental, that's the damages. This is the state funding that we talked about, where you can see that $56,000 estimated loss year over year. Technology grants, that's kind of a wash with our education fund. That would be the digital learning grant is the main one, and that is a state competitive grant. We don't always, sometimes we get the full amount, sometimes we get 5,000, sometimes we get 9,000, but you have to pay it out of the education fund before you get reimbursement. So we put it in here, but we also have to budget for it in the education fund. So we'll budget assuming that we'll get the full amount. Hopefully we do, but may not. Then Medicaid reimbursements. We've seen this number has increased pretty good. I think they're doing a across the board a better job of not a better job, but a good job of putting those claims in. And then other is if we have CPR reimbursements, jury duty. If a employee goes to jury duty and gets a paid day off, they have to send us that whatever they get paid for that outside of mileage. So those are just kind of little things that add up over the year, and not really a big line item. So with that being said, here is our projected education fund budget. You can see we've had pretty substantial increases over the last few years. This year, our total budget is projected to be about 2.47% higher than last year. And we'll kind of walk through. Budget doesn't mean that you're going to spend every bit of it. There's got to be some room for some unexpected things. So we'll talk about how that 2.47%, just because it's a budget number, doesn't necessarily mean that it is an actuality thing. So to go through kind of some changes we've really tried to do when we've had vacancies or people resign or retire. We've really worked with the principals, and Dr. Stewart has talked to the principals at the schools and the teachers, and we've figured out where can we kind of make changes? Where can we not fully replace positions, or is there a possibility of a teacher moving to a different building to cut, different things like that. So you'll see both sides. We've had to add some positions, but then there's also been some positions that we haven't filled, which has helped keep that budget increase be as low as it is. So at Farmersville, we added budget for a full-time special ed teacher for preschool. Like we said, that's part of our strategic plan of getting those kids in earlier and having more going to the 5 days a week preschool. And so our special ed department really felt like we needed additional resources at that school. Our librarian at Farmersville retired this year, and to kind of match what the other elementary schools did is we replaced that position with a TA position. And then we also, this change actually happened last year, but too late in the year to add it to the budget, but an additional day for our music teacher at Farm. You guys can stop me at any time if you have questions.
So on the librarian, obviously we had a certified librarian in there.
Yep.
The TA will keep us in compliance with all the rules and regs.
Yes, so we have a certified librarian for the district, which covers our requirements for the district, and I think she's going to do a great job training and working with all the TAs at the elementary schools and junior high to
I want to make
And
sure.
just so you guys all know that was Julie Kissinger is moving into that district role. So she will be supporting the librarians at all of the other schools and also fulfilling the role here at the high school.
So it'll be a great hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
At Mars, we had 2 teaching vacancies. Believe one moved to the junior high, which we'll talk about later, and the second one, they moved
West.
to West. Is that it?
We moved a kindergarten section to West.
Moved to kindergarten section to West. So,
Mhm.
due to we looked at enrollment numbers and future projections, and working with Ms. Bouchard, we felt like that those positions didn't need to be filled right away due to the enrollment numbers. At West Elementary, we added budget back in for the Youth First social worker. This was grant funded this year. We're like 95% confident we're going to get grant funding for 2026 as well. But in the case that we don't, we wanted to make sure we had budget for it. And then prior to this year, we only had 2 sections of 5th grade. So we because of enrollment, there was another 5th grade section added, and then there was some movement within the building to fill all those spots. And then we also added a position for a full-time special ed teacher at West as well, like we did Farmersville. At this time, we are not filling that position, but that depending on enrollment and needs, that could eventually be one. So we wanted to start preparing for it now, just in case we had to make a change mid-year or even next year. We kind of already had that built in going forward. So at the junior high, we added a certified teacher for our career and college readiness class. This was required by the new state diploma changes that we add this class. It could either be at the high school or the junior high. So that's junior high was the landing spot for that. So hopefully the kids will be a step ahead by the time they get to high school, and they won't have to worry about taking that class when they get there. So.
And Kate Offerman will be teaching that, and I think she will slide into that position with a lot of resources. So we're excited for that.
At the high school, we had a retirement in the math department, which we had been anticipating, and we actually were had known that this was a possibility. So we were one position really probably overstaffed, which, I don't want to say overstaffed. They were using their classes were all filled up, but they were able to do schedules differently so that we did not have to backfill that position. And then we added budget amounts for 4 academic team assistant coach stipends. We were kind of a little behind the times with that one. A lot of other schools had already been paying those assistant coaches, and so we felt like it was necessary to invest in our academic team and our teachers that are going to help out there. At the district level, last year we did increase late in the year our substitute teacher pay, and so when you increase the pay, you got to increase the budget level for that as well. Really not by a ton, because we weren't maxing out that budget as it is. The one I really want to talk about is the professional development travel. Right now, those funds are still kind of up in the air, which is where we, do majority when we show education, professional development. You see a lot of Title II, a lot of Title IV. We don't have those funds yet. They're still being held for federal review, so they've been appropriated by Congress, but the executive branch is holding them for review right now. So we don't know what exactly nobody knows exactly what that means. They believe that we will receive those funds. We already have budget amount. We've already applied for them. We already have our budgeted amounts. We just don't have the go ahead that the money is actually there. So because of that, we took that money and we put it in our education fund, hoping to not have to spend that, that we will receive those Title II and Title IV budgets. And then for the occupational therapist, we added that position in there. And then we were able to remove the line item for joint services for special education, which was at this point just paying for occupational therapy, shared resources with North Posey at the time. So that line was kind of a wash. So here is the comparison for 2025 to 2026. You can see it's a total increase of about $464,000. Kind of some of the numbers that jump out is the 12,000 line special programs. This is a lot of our special ed department. The 10% big increase, that's those 2 preschool special ed teachers that were added to the budget, is a big portion of that. The payment to other governmental units within the state, that reduction was where I just talked about the occupational therapy services we're paying. We were able to remove that budget from there. And then that budget was added into the 21,000, which is another big increase. But also that's where that Youth First budget sits as well. So we added that back into there. On the 24,000 line, this is where administrator salaries are, and then also our school secretaries. We had the assistant principal position at West that we did not fill whenever she resigned, but we did keep that in the budget in case we need that position later on. The decrease is we also had last year we knew that we had 2 maternity leaves, and so we had budgeted in an administrator sub salary in there that could have potentially covered that, but we ended up covering it in-house, so we didn't have to use it. So that was good. Saved us some money.
Mm-hmm.
And then our support services, central services, that's textbooks. So we had budgeted 300,000 last year. We're budgeting 200,000 this year because it's a lighter load on our textbook adoption this year. Reading at the elementary schools, as you can imagine, is a lot of big expense. So that was why it was $250,000 this year. And so, like I said, 464,000. But just off the top, where we're talking, the Youth First budget at $50,000. The open administrator position at 75,000, and then the preschool special ed that we're not filling at 85,000 is almost half of that budget that we have budgeted, but we don't have plans right now to fill. So even though that's a change of 464, we already just easily from the top don't plan on filling about 250,000 of that. Oh, right here? Yeah, 19,284,211. Okay, so our cash balance, we started the year with $9.7 million. Our income, that's that miscellaneous that we showed at the start. Our state support, our interest income, gives you your total income revenue that's coming in. So we project if we spend 100% of our education fund this year, we'd be at about $9.3 million. We should not spend 100% of our education fund. The goal would be about 97, 96% of that. And then you follow that through 100% spending last year, then going with 100% spending this year. would leave us at about $8.5 million. So still a good cash balance. Does show a decrease, but again, that's assuming that we're spending 100% of the budget each of the years, which unless something crazy happens, should not be the case.
Worst case scenario.
Yes. Any questions? Or how many questions?
I think you answered a lot of them along the way in your explanation.
I think we're one of the few in the state that doesn't, because it's just a given whenever I go to conferences. They're like, how do you stay below your, is it 10 or 20% limit? And I'm like, oh, we're at 0. So yeah.
I appreciate you guys strategizing to not have to backfill or absorb with the other employees.
The thing, and right now I'm just conservative by nature, and I know we have a good cash balance, and we don't ever want to get into a spot where we're having to knee jerk and riff people and do those things. So we're hoping that as we go, if we're fiscally conservative and being smart with our resources, that day would hopefully never come.
We think we can operate without feeling a pinch right now by just being really smart about what we don't have to have. I mean, it's not like we have to act right now on that, but I think if we always act on that, we can think about that going forward. We'll always keep ourselves in a good place where we can stay to small class sizes like we've committed to, and still helping our teachers to have the resources they need to do their job.
Oh, that's part of the marketing piece as well, to draw kids to Mount Vernon. So.
Yep. And then there's always plan B, C, and D before we get to worst case scenario. So, okay. Rainy day funds. This one's much more straightforward than all the other funds. So here's our projected revenue. The 135 that we had in 22, 23, 24, and before that was repayments for the turf football field. It was paid out of the rainy day fund, and so those payments were donations that were coming back into it. We, as of right now, don't have all those repayments have been completed. The only kind of outstanding repayment that we will make in the future that we have planned right now is once we get a good process on the houses, because we did pay for that first house out of the rainy day fund. And so eventually, once we build that account up high enough, we'd like to transfer that money back to the rainy day fund, but that could take a few years to get to that point. So as of right now, we're not anticipating any revenue coming into the rainy day fund. If there was revenue, which I'll probably talk about this later too, it would be a transfer from the operations fund, just to put some of that cash.
What we've underspent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this one's going to be real boring. Our budget is going to be the same as it was the last few years. 2023 was that outlier because of the house. We bumped up that appropriations for that year, but once we got that and we sold the house, and we're kind of in a pretty good spot to use those funds to continue on that process. For the actual budget, we do have funds in for regular programs, which would be like a building trades house. So if something, if we had a large piece of land, or something that we were going to use for a bigger purchase price, or we were able to do 2 houses at once and we had to go back to this fund, that's just where that budget is sitting at, so that we can do it. Talk about the transfers. We haven't had to do it since I've been here, but that would be transfers to like the self-insurance fund, which, as we talked about earlier in the meeting, is going really well. So hopefully that never has to be touched. And then the maintenance of buildings. I know we talk about it every year, and I have to figure out exactly how this is, but we have to keep, for insurance purposes, a budget of 5 times the deductible amount of $35,000 for the excess liability trust fund for our underground storage tanks. So if something were to ever go wrong, that's where we'd pay for that insurance for remediation and for replacement. And we'll talk about this when we get to the operations fund, but those are at the end of life. So we will be looking at replacing those before we hopefully ever have to dip into any sort of emergency remediation
Do
fund.
they test that annually?
They do.
Yep.
Yep.
Everything's
Yeah. We actually they have daily tests, and then they have more thorough monthly tests, and then oh, I'm off there. And then they come down once a year and kind of audit everything and do a very thorough test. And there's always a thing or two to correct with a reading or something like that. But yes, our tanks are still good, but they caution with the age that it's time to start. And the state actually has a program where they will pay half the cost of replacement. So we'll take advantage of that while we can. Let me see if I can get this back.
So they'll pay half the cost for the removal and replacement of those, or is it just on the removal?
If we do the same size for underground, yeah.
Let me refresh it.
Yeah, it's not letting me begin. Let's get to the good part too. There it is.
Amen.
Here's our cash flow advertised budget. We have 1.7 million in cash right now. We spent 100% of the 2025 fund. That takes us down to 944. And again, if we spend 100% of 2026, it would bring us down to 169,000 in our fund. But again, that would be absolute worst case scenario, and we hope to never have to spend 100% of our rainy day fund. So here is the actual projected and that 10%, that's just for if there was ever overages in the house as far as if there was a cash flow issue of buying materials, but I don't anticipate that to happen either. So even with that, this is still a conservative estimate, about $1.6 million at the end of 2026. And that is it for the rainy day fund.
I don't have any questions.
Time that just for the rain effect. No, it was $900 a piece ish. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at that exact number because we've actually already hired those positions. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for all you do.
Yep. Yep. Will do.
All right, we are adjourned.
All right, thank you.